Hey guys! So today I'm going to be showing you how to draw brown hair in colored pencil using this small study I did. So I used the Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, and I used the Walnut Brown, the Burnt Sienna, Brown Ochre, Dark Sepia, Black, and I used the Caran Luminance white pencil for some of the brightest highlights. If you don't have the Luminance, you can just use Prismacolor or Polychromos white is fine. And then I also used the crafting knife to do some of the fine details at the end, but if you don't have one of those, you can just use the white pencil as well. So for this drawing, there was a lot of different directions going on with the hair, so I wanted to make sure that I had all of those down and I knew which sections were going in which direction, because if you don't have the hair flowing in the right direction, it's not going to look realistic no matter how good the color is. So I started off with the dark sepia color, and I went in and kind of put in all the different sections very lightly, and then after I had all those sections put in, then I started to go in with that same color for the darkest areas, just to make sure that I knew where my darkest areas were going to be and just to have kind of a base for that dark area. Then I went with the Burnt Sienna in kind of some of the lighter to mid-tones. I still kept the brightest highlights blank at this point because I don't want them to get too dark, but I just wanted to get some coverage of color in the kind of mid-range sections. After I used the Burnt Sienna, then I went in with the Walnut Brown in some of the darker mid-range areas, just to make sure again that there was coverage in those areas and leaving the highlighted portions blank so that they didn't get too dark. And then once I was done with that first layer, I went back again with the dark sepia color to darken up some of the darkest areas again. With hair like this, you really want to make sure that you're getting good contrast so that you correctly show the flow of the hair, so you can tell which direction the curls are going and it doesn't look flat. After I finished again with the dark sepia, then on the top portion I went back again with the walnut brown just to get some more coverage of color, and then I used the black just to darken up a couple of the darkest shadows again. The color that I used for the highlights in this was the brown ochre. So after I had darkened up those shadows, I went back and blended a little bit over the whole of that area with the brown ochre. And then again went back with the black and the dark sepia to darken up some of the darkest shadows. After doing the darkest shadows, I used the walnut brown to again get that mid-range kind of color, and also the burnt sienna. These two colors together were mixing well to get the color that I wanted, so I just kept layering those two colors until I was happy with the color I was getting. And then I went back with the brown ochre to go over the highlighted areas, and using the dark sepia and the black to continue to darken the shadows. Once I was happy with the overall color on the top section, then I started working on the bottom section, and I used the same process, except I wanted the bottom portion to be a little bit darker, so I did use more of the walnut brown, but again, I'm still using the brown ochre for the highlighted areas. With this part, I really made sure to leave those highlighted areas almost blank until I was done with each section to make sure that I didn't accidentally get it too dark. There were some spots that really needed to be darkened, and I went back with a lot of black actually to make sure that they were as dark as I wanted them to be. So for each little section of hair, I just continued to layer with the walnut brown, burnt sienna, brown ochre for the highlights, and then the dark sepia and the black for the darkest shadows. One of the most important things in colored pencils is making sure that you have enough layers. So as you can see, as I continue with each layer, it looks more and more realistic as I'm going. And as you get towards the later layers, that's when you want to start pushing a little bit harder and starting to burnish a little bit. Again, you want to make sure that you're really getting a good contrast so that the portions of hair that are underneath are dark enough so that it does look like they're further away from your viewpoint, and then the ones that are coming forward have the highlights so they do actually look like they're right on top and not being pushed back. So at the end I went through with the Caran white. If you don't have the Caran pencils, you can use Prismacolor white. It will work the same. I just like that one because it's a little bit more opaque, so it shows up on top of the colored pencil. So I like to use that for the brightest highlights. And then I went through with my crafting knife to make some of the stray hairs to make it look a little bit more realistic. No one's hair is going to be perfectly in place all the time. You're going to have a couple of stray hairs, and that will really help your drawing look more realistic. If you don't have a crafting knife, you can use the white pencil or another lighter color for this. Like if you wanted to use the brown ochre for ones that you don't want to show up quite as much, that would work just as well. I hope you found this hair tutorial helpful. I do have other hair tutorials. I'll have cards pop up for those, and I will also put them down in the video description if you want to check those out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials. Bye guys!